Hello there, 99%. Here's a special holiday message from us on the top and the 1%. You know, 1 in 7 Americans now lives in poverty. And if that doesn't convince you retail humans that we at the top need another tax cut, then I just give up. The holidays are a time for giving thanks, so I'd like to thank the Tea Party for fighting so hard that we got to keep our tax cut. Of course, we don't really need that extra 3%, and really your grandkids are paying for it, so I guess I should thank them. But we're the job creators, and we create so many jobs with our job-creating tax cuts that maybe someday we'll create some jobs that aren't actually in Asia. Over the past 30 years, our wages have gone up 375%, while you in the middle class have only seen your wages rise 40%. And this proves an important fact that Occupy Wall Street is made up of dirty, lazy hippies who just want a handout. So's Acorn. Remember, rich people pay Fox people to make middle class people blame the poor people. So now that we've outsourced your jobs overseas and had our taxes cut by those politicians we bought and our corporations subsidized by your tax dollars, we're going to have our media tell you to go out shopping for the holidays and spend money that'll never circulate back into your local economies at our megastore businesses to save that economy we wrecked. Okay? Remember, if you fight for the bottom 99%, you're just committing class warfare. If you fight for us, it's pro-growth. Now go buy things to celebrate the birthday of that guy who renounced buying things. Ta, keep watching Fox.
As you might have guessed, that's not an actual 1%er. That is comedian John Fugelsang, who actually, by the way, has the #1 comedy album on iTunes.
So that means he's making a lot of money.
Well, that's true. So maybe he's in the top 1% because of his album Sexy Liberal. So the funny thing is, though, I had a debate on the current show on the Young Turks with Peter Schiff, who is that guy. He's a 1%er. He's got $64 million. Came on the show and he's like, "What? We pay too much taxes. We need to have the poor pay more taxes.
We've never paid more in taxes." He said.
Yeah, which is just simply not true.
What's the rationale behind that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
I mean, look, the rationale behind it is, we got this thing figured out. Who cares what the 99% think? Who cares Occupy Wall Street? Look, they've got Congress totally in their back pocket. They've got the media through Fox that John is talking about there, putting out that message of if you try to fight back, you're doing class warfare. Meanwhile, Warren Buffett says, look, there's been class warfare going on for a long time. It's just that my class is winning, and fairly easily.
Yeah, I don't understand. We've talked about this a lot. I don't understand why liberals ever run from the term class warfare. Clearly, conservatives think that it is, we'll just say you're doing class warfare and you'll retreat. Yeah, we're engaged in class warfare. Let's embrace the term. That's right. That's okay. That seems tough. I guess it's not a tough enough word. I mean, it's too tough.
Yeah, first of all, here's who's not going to say he's doing class warfare: Barack Obama.
I got it.
Right.
But
I love what you're saying. Can you imagine if the president gets up and he's like, here's what's happening. Class warfare, we're coming for you.
Yeah.
Right. That would be awesome. He would win easily.
You should start a petition about that on whitehouse.gov.
Yeah, but I'm curious. I mean, I don't want to get too sidetracked, but I'm curious why Republicans think that's such an awful term for Americans to hear.
Yeah, because they think, you know what, it seems like, because it makes it seem as if the poor and the middle class have all the power, and they're conducting warfare on the poor victims, the 1%.
But who thinks that? No one.
Well,
Peter
has there been some focus group testing on the word class?
I don't know. I think there probably was. I'm going to guess now. My new friend Frank Luntz would say that it's not a good word. My hunch is they're using. It seems to me they're using it less and less.
There's a lot of negativity around it when you hear warfare.
But
my God.
I'm with you, Ben. I actually don't know it resonates.
Yeah, I don't
badly with the. Class warfare feels like a good populist phrase.
Right,
that seems just.
Yeah. I don't know. The thing is, this conversation would never happen in Washington. And part of the reason for it, I think, is because the Democrats live in the same bubble as the Republicans. Somebody wrote about that today. They said, hey, listen, all their friends are probably in the top 1%, right? And so when you say class warfare, they take it personally. Not just the Republicans, the Democrats too, saying, whoa, wait a minute now. My buddy is a banker, I'm in the top 1%. So that's why I don't think that there's any way that they're going to go in that direction. But look, there's 100 different ways to tackle it. And if they care to do something, I mean, I love the way you're framing it, but there's a million ways to frame it. And you mentioned Frank Luntz. And Ben was on a cruise with Frank Luntz, which is kind of interesting
heard
and
about that.
questionable.
Yeah, he's a, as you might imagine, he was an interesting guy to talk to. Totally, he's a very, very, very
He's
smart
sipping
guy.
margaritas.
Yeah, he was into it. He was just it was just me, Frank Luntz, and
he
Wink
has
Martindale.
a giant party in Los Angeles every year, right? And invites people from both sides to come out and go.
Yeah,
on a boat.
absolutely. And
We can learn from Frank Luntz.
No, he's a very smart guy, and he gave a speech to the Republican Governors Association very recently, where he said, "Hey, you know what? We're losing this battle, right?" Mm. So it's interesting that you brought that up. He's like, "Don't even say capitalism anymore." Because capitalism is now beginning to be seen as a dirty word. Mm-hmm. We've got to switch it up, make it like put free in there, free markets, etc. Because we're beginning to lose ground to socialism in the United States. He said, "I'm scared to death of Occupy Wall Street." That was in an internal presentation to the Republican governors. So the Republicans actually have gotten the memo that you're talking about. Ben, unfortunately, the Democrats haven't, right?
Well,
and when you look at the income inequality, it's just through the roof. Top 1% control 40% of the nation's wealth, right? And so, one of the hedge fund managers was complaining the other day, John Polson, the guy who made a killing off of shorting the home mortgage market. He's like, "Oh, we have to pay 40% of the taxes." Yeah, that's because you have 40% of the money.
Yeah, right, and that's it.
I feel like it is a survival of the fittest. For a lot of people who I talk to are in the 1%. They're like, why should I pay for their problems and their mistakes? That's how they look at it. Right. I just love seeing Russell Simmons and Kanye West heading to all the Occupy Wall Streets. That's always ironic to me when I see them because, I appreciate the support, but then they're still living the 1% lifestyle. It's
but nobody in the Occupy movement, nobody's begrudging anybody a mansion. Nobody's begrudging anybody $15 million a year, $100 million a year. We just want you to pay, and then we want to do something about the hard numbers of the 46 million people in this country are poor.
Yeah.
Now that's more people than Indonesia, which has almost as many people as we do, but from a percentage basis, we're actually right around the same numbers. Actually, I got that exactly backwards. We have a slightly lower percentage, but we have more poor people in this country than they do in Indonesia, which is absurd. 27% of black people in this country live below the poverty line. 26% of Hispanic people. Let go class warfare. That's absurd. That's better than 1 in 4 black people in this country.
Yeah. And two points on what Shira said. Russell Simmons, when they were going to clear out Zuccotti Park, and Bloomberg said, "Oh, it's costing the government a lot of money to keep this thing going." Russell Simmons was like, "Yeah, it's cool. I'll pay for it." Okay, which is amazing,
That's
which is
very
great,
cool. Yeah.
right? And then second of all, the 1% talk about survival of the fittest, but wait a minute, you guys didn't survive. You crashed, and we had to bail you out. They didn't survive at all, Brian. They got no leg to stand on.
Barack Obama has not campaigned yet. He really hasn't started. He's been,
right.
and everybody's screaming at him to lead and lead and lead and lead. But he's basically, I'll get into the race when it's time for me to get into the race. And I think why Frank Luntz is scared and why other people are scared is that his vernacular of we need a level playing field is way more resonant and way more effective with the American people. And when he starts campaigning on that message and starts hammering these guys, they should be very afraid.
Why hasn't he started then?
Because it's too early to run.
Yeah, they'll still start after Iowa. But that idea that he'll campaign and start talking about that as opposed to the other argument, which is we need a pipeline.
Because
nobody, you're right,
we're
going to win.
Nobody begrudges anyone a mansion or a fancy car or a second home or a boat. What they do want, and this is what everybody wants, is a level playing field, a fair shot, and justice.
Yeah.
Justice for those who abuse the system.
Nobody needs a boat.
But my final point.
I can't afford the luxury tax myself.
Right, and by the way, boats are a pain in the ass. There's
Even the smallest boat is a pain in the ass.
Canoe, really?
Yeah. Canoe. You think I'm going to make it in a canoe? I'm going to tip over. Anyway.
And then you got to buck a canoe. It's crazy.
I don't even know what that means. Okay. No, but look. Last thing is, Shira made a good point. Why hasn't Obama been doing this for the last 3 years? Why is he waiting till the campaign to be like, all right, we need a level playing field? You know what, we could have used you when you were president. How about that, right? And by the way, you still are. Let's hope that he continue or he starts to act that way.